What's up guys, my name is Ace, and throughout the Modern Warfare 3 beta, we had a very limited selection of perks and gear and vests. However, it turns out the in-game descriptions actually confirm a couple extra perks that many people didn't pick up on, so I wanted to cover those today. And on top of this, several days ago, while the beta was still live, there was a big leak for apparent perks and gear for Modern Warfare 3, as well as potentially Zombies and Warzone. And I didn't immediately jump on this and make a video about it because I'm not 100% sure that I can trust these leaks. First off, this is coming from a source that I'm unfamiliar with and I don't believe has a proven track record at this point. It doesn't mean they're definitely wrong and don't have accurate leaks, it's just they haven't really proven themselves yet. This is Modern Warfare 3 Intel on Twitter. I will leave a link to that down below if you want to check it out. And on top of this, while going through these perks, there were several things that just looked like they were a little bit off and didn't make a whole lot of sense. However, there were also several perks that were leaked in this that just corroborate previous leaks that we've seen. So with today's video, as I'm going through this, I'll try to be clear as to which ones have been corroborated by multiple sources and therefore we can likely trust that will be in the game, and other ones that haven't been corroborated and therefore you should definitely take with a grain of salt. And let's just dive right into this and start this off with vests. Now with the vests in Modern Warfare 3, each of them tends to essentially have a perk effect attached to them, and then many of them also have an effect on what type of gear or equipment that you can use in addition to that vest. So some of them will restrict boots, for instance, or give you an extra piece of gear, or prevent you from using lethals. And with these leaks, they don't reveal any of those additional effects. All we see is the perk effect that is attached to the vest. And starting it off with the vests, none of these have actually been corroborated by any other sources that I've seen. This is just something that hasn't been leaked in the past. However, we're going to start with some of the vests that I believe in the most, at least, with these leaks. The first one is the lightweight RAR vest, and this one has a perk effect that gives you increased movement speed on land and water, and it also gives you less splash noise and you surface silently from being underwater. So this effectively just gives you the perk of the lightweight boots, and we've seen this in the past with some of the other vests, where they effectively just give you the exact same perk effect as one of the pieces of gear. However, they don't tend to stack with that piece of gear. They will convert that piece of gear to something else if you end up trying to combine them. So I do think that one actually makes sense, and we will likely be seeing this vest. Next, we have something that I am hoping is going to be in the game. This is the compression carrier. And with this one, it reduces your health regeneration delay by 20%, and it also allows you to immediately start that health regeneration every time you get a kill. So effectively part of the quick fix perk from Modern Warfare 2 combined with like the ICU perk from Ghost, for instance, where by default, even without getting a kill, your health regeneration is improved, but also when you get a kill, that improves it even more. However, there's no mention here of touching objectives also initiating your health regeneration immediately like we see in Modern Warfare 2. So in some ways kind of a watered down version of quick fix, but in other ways actually a better version of quick fix because it helps all the time even when you're not getting a kill. As for the next one, this is the CCT comms vest. And with this, it says it increases the duration that enemies will appear on the radar, and it will also zoom out the radar for you and nearby allies. That part's a little bit strange, zooming out the radar for nearby allies that aren't using this perk. If anything, that might be a little jarring for those players that aren't using the perk if their minimap is suddenly changing in size. But on top of this, there's another effect where when you kill enemies, they will drop an intel pack, and then when you pick up that intel pack, it will ping from that location on the radar, and any enemies that aren't using Ghost in the immediate vicinity will show up on the radar for you. And we have seen perks like that in previous Call of Duty games as well. As for the next one that I'll admit I'm seeing some inconsistency with, and therefore I'm kind of doubting this is going to be accurate for multiplayer at least, but I still wanted to mention it. This is the shielded carrier, which states that you'll be immune to the effects of EMP, shock, and heartbeat sensor. The strange thing about this one is the heartbeat sensor in this game is countered by the Ghost perk, whereas EMP and shocks are countered by Tactical Mask. And so far, I don't think we've really seen a mix of multiple perks attached to the same vest. And that has me doubting this a little bit, especially because there is a rumor of a scout vest, which we've actually seen a leaked image of from a much earlier build of the game. But I've also heard rumors about this scout vest being the Ghost perk that works all the time, even when stationary. And I would think that this vest counters the heartbeat sensor rather than the shielded carrier. So this is one of those areas where I have my doubts about this leak, but who knows? It's possible this is accurate. Now on top of that, there were a couple vests that definitely didn't look like they applied to multiplayer. It looks like it applies somewhere else, like potentially Warzone or Zombies or something. First one is the Aegis vest, which provides immunity to EMP, shock, and thermal, and warns of nearby equipment and delays the trigger of equipment. That one seems very redundant with the shielded carrier we just talked about, so again, brings these leaks into question at least to some degree. And on top of that, we have the self-healing polymer armor, which will auto-regen your equipped armor after a delay. So the armor itself will regenerate, and in regular multiplayer, we don't have armor. At least as far as we're aware, we're not going to be having any armor. So there we go, those are the vests, and like I said, none of these have really been corroborated by any other leaks. So I trust in these the least out of any of the perks we're talking about today, although I do think some of them will be accurate at least. Next, let's move on to the gloves category, and we first have 2 gloves that are corroborated by previous leaks. The first are the Dex gloves, or previously known as the Specialist gloves. With these ones, it allows you to throw equipment further, and it resets the fuse timer on thrown back grenades. And on top of this, we have Marksman gloves, which again, this has been corroborated by previous leaks. With this, it says it reduces your sway and flinch while aiming down sight. And if that's true, these are going to be very powerful gloves that are likely going to become a bit of a crutch in the glove section, since the other gloves are fairly weak relative to this. As for the next gloves that were leaked, these are the assault gloves, and these have been leaked in the past with a completely different description, so either something changed or one of these is just straight up incorrect. But previously with our leaks, the assault gloves description said that while jumping, your accuracy and time to aim down sight is improved, so it eliminates or reduces that aim down sight penalty while jump shotting. Whereas now, in the most recent leaks, apparently the assault gloves improve your sprint to fire speed. And it is worth noting, in the beta, we had an attachment that gave us a reduction to that aim down sight speed penalty. It was in the form of a laser attachment, so perhaps what they did is move that over to a laser attachment instead, and then just pivoted on what the assault gloves do, so they help with sprint out time now. But I really don't know at this stage what the assault gloves are going to end up doing. And now let's get into another set of gloves that was with this recent leak that hasn't been corroborated by any other leaks. And this is the impact resistant gloves that apparently increase your melee speed and range. So sounds a whole lot like Commando from the original Modern Warfare 2. Hopefully, if these do exist, they're nowhere near the level of Commando from back in the day. Or who knows, maybe these just work for like zombies, for instance, and that would be totally fine for something like zombies. And then finally, there was another set of gloves that don't look like they will be applying to multiplayer at all. These are the triage gloves, which auto-equips armor that you pick up. Again, we don't have armor in multiplayer, so I think this is more likely for something like zombies. After that, let's move into the boots category, and we actually had access to a good number of boots throughout the beta, so there's only a couple other ones that have been leaked, and one of them actually fully confirmed within the beta menus themselves, and these are the running sneakers. If you have a look at the description for the infantry vest, it says that duplicate effects do not stack, and if equipped with running sneakers, therefore confirming running sneakers in the game, you will instead gain the effects of lightweight boots. And with the leaks, it mentions that running sneakers will increase your tac sprint duration and reduce the refresh time of your tac sprint, which is exactly the effect that you get with the infantry vest that won't stack with running sneakers. So this is already effectively confirmed by the game itself. And therefore, unless they decide to change something between beta and launch, running sneakers are already confirmed in the game. However, there's one other set of boots that came with this recent leak, and these are called suspension pads that apparently reduce flinch while aiming down sight, which is a bit strange, and one of the reasons I'm questioning these leaks, because that's effectively the exact same perk we just talked about that was leaked in the glove category. Now, perhaps what we're seeing here is maybe these leaks were data mined, and a lot of times when you data mine things, you end up finding things that were actually scrapped or changed from an earlier build. So maybe at one point these were boots and they decided to move them to gloves, or vice versa. Maybe these were gloves at one point and they decided to move them to boots. I do have my doubts though that we're going to be seeing the same perk apply to both of these perk categories though. So I think one of these may be accurate, but I don't think both are. And then finally, let's get into the gear section. And we've actually got a lot of pieces of gear here. And let's start this off with one of them that was confirmed in the game. Again, if you look at the descriptions for one of the vests, this time on the gunner vest. With this one, it says duplicate effects do not stack. And if equipped with mag holster, which confirms the mag holster, you gain the effects of mission comlink instead. And the two effects that the gunner vest has that could conflict with the mag holster are deploying with maximum ammo and improved reload speed. And the leaked version of mag holster is improved reload speed. And I know a lot of people were really wishing they had a perk for this so they didn't have to use the gunner vest for a fast reload. It looks like this is going to be the mag holster and it's going to be in the gear section. And balance-wise, I think this is the right place to put a faster reloading perk instead of the gloves, for instance, which a lot of people were expecting to see faster reload in the gloves section. Contextually, that would make sense, but gameplay balance-wise, not so much, because that would immediately be by far the best gloves in the entire game. And I think that would end up being a crutch in that category. Additionally, I want to go over some gear that wasn't in this recent leak, but I have seen leaks for in the past. In the gear section, I have descriptions for many of these and not necessarily names though. The first one is essentially tracker that shows recent enemy footsteps. The second one is effectively cold-blooded, so undetectable by AI targeting systems and thermal optics. This one's an absolute no-brainer. Of course we're gonna have a cold-blooded perk in the game. After that, there was a leak for a perk called Intel Jacker, and with this one, enemies that you kill will drop a data pad, and then collecting that data pad will generate a ping on your minimap, just like we saw as one of the perks attached to one of the new leaked vests. And also there was a leak for a signal jammer perk that will disrupt enemy equipment like claymores and mines, and it will also warn you of nearby equipment. Again, these ones I just mentioned weren't in the recent leaks. Now let's get into the ones that were in the recent leaks, and I actually have a much harder time believing these ones. In fact, I'd be a bit surprised if any of these ones show up, but I'm still going to point them out anyway. We have the high gain antenna, which zooms out your minimap for you and nearby allies, just like that portion of one of the vests. And it also says you gain the effects of acoustic sensor and radio intercept if a nearby ally has the perk. And it also says see nearby ally radar pings from data jacker and compass indicators from nearby allied signal jammers. And that one just seems like a very complex and confusing perk to be adding to the game. And generally they like to keep things fairly simple and easy to understand. So I actually have a hard time believing this one, but who knows, it could be in the game. After that, we have one called radio intercept, which allows you to see indicators for enemy reinforcements on the map. So this effectively is forward intel from like Vanguard or Cold War. And I'll be honest, as bad as the spawns were in the beta, and as much as this would have helped with those really bad spawn situations, I don't want to see a perk like this in the game. I'd much rather they just get spawns at least in a half-decent place and not provide the ability to see where enemies are spawning every time they spawn in. That was too much of a crutch perk in Vanguard, and while I used it throughout almost the entire year of Vanguard, I don't want to see it in the game. Now on the bright side, none of the other perks that I do believe are in the game have mentioned countering radio intercept, and as a result, that leads me to believe that this was likely a scrapped perk that is no longer going to be in the game, and I hope I'm right on that one. After that, for leaked gear, we have shielded electronics, which states immunity to effects of EMP and shock, and that is redundant. Tac Mask already covers EMP and shock, and it's in the same gear slot, so again, I think this is likely a scrapped perk, or it's going to apply somewhere else in the game that's not multiplayer. We also have EVG, or Enhanced Vision Goggles, and with these it states that you can toggle to a view that highlights enemies that are in view. So it sounds kind of like a target finder type thing that will outline enemy players in red, for instance, but only when toggled on, and perhaps while toggled on that will have some downsides like no minimap, for instance. Not too sure on that one, but it has been leaked. And then finally there was flame resistant insulation, which reduces fire damage by 75% and you show cold on thermal. Again, this is just another one that's redundant. EOD already provides flame resistance, so again, I don't see this as a multiplayer perk. And with that, that's pretty much it. That's going to wrap it up for all of the leaked perks that we've seen so far. Again, many of them I believe are not accurate, or at least not current, and perhaps were accurate at one point but have been scrapped. However, there's also a good handful of them that I'm definitely believing in, especially the ones corroborated by multiple sources. Overall, I think these perks are looking pretty good, but I also think a lot of this just hinges on the vests, and particularly the additional effects that you gain from the vests that we haven't seen yet. So one big hope that I have is there's another vest in the game that provides the ability to have at least 2 pieces of gear, because in the beta we only had the engineer vest for that, and the pieces of gear are very powerful, so I found myself often gravitating heavily toward the engineer vest just so I could get 2 pieces of gear. So I do hope that some of the other vests that we see in the game will also allow for 2 pieces of gear, and then perhaps change up how our equipment works. So instead of multiple tacticals, I would even be willing to sacrifice my tactical and my lethal to gain 2 pieces of gear if it also had some other impact. Or maybe if I had to sacrifice gloves, for instance, to get 2 pieces of gear, I'm totally fine with that as well. I just think it would be a shame and potentially unbalanced if only the engineer vest allows for 2 gear slots. And with that, that's going to wrap it up for today's video, and this is where I want to hear from you guys in those comments down below. First off, do you believe that most of these perks are accurate, or do you think some of them are completely inaccurate or just outdated? And second, after going through this leaked list of perks, are there any perks that are still missing from this list for you that you were hoping to see in Modern Warfare 3? Just let me know all of those thoughts down below. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.